Ben had a great question. What's the lowest retainer you would charge, and what do you do when you feel like the client can't afford you? A great meeting today. It was building rapport, but it came very clear that this was a small company. They're only making like $60K a year. What's the lowest retainer you would charge, and what do you do when you feel like the client can't afford you? It really depends on the type of business. So a gym, for instance, that's making 60 to 100 grand, they've got coaches, they've got rental property to pay for, they've got overhead fees. A company like that is probably, you're not gonna be able to charge more than a couple $100 a month, and it's probably not worth your time to really engage with. Now, if you find someone who, say, is a life coach, or someone who has a very low overhead, say they're a consultant and they're making 100 grand a year, then that's maybe something that you could work with. It's not gonna be your most expensive client, but that's kind of like a minimum bar. But as far as like overall businesses, like if it's a legitimate business, they have expenses, overhead, 500K to $1 million is usually where you want to see their annual revenue for it to make sense to bring on an agency or bring on a freelancer or someone to really help bolster their presence, because they're going to have some money to play with. But yeah, 60K, I mean, I can't even really imagine there being any room other than if it's something that's just starting, there's actual financial backing behind it. It's a very early process. Like we've engaged with clients that have made $0, but it makes perfect sense to work with them because they've been funded, or they are a third-time company exit CEO and they have the funding. The revenue of the business doesn't always matter, but it definitely does matter depending on what type of business it is, and you'll quickly be able to tell if they can afford you or not. What do you say if you feel like they're too small? I mean, just be honest. Say, hey, my retainer is this. I feel like you guys are a couple stages too early to maybe bring me on full time. Maybe you can work something out where you're consulting with them. You just do a one-off project or something, and then build a relationship, and once they're in a better position, then they can take you on full time. But these aren't the clients that you want to be seeking out, because ultimately they can't afford you. So that's what I would say. Those are the numbers we like to play in. And like I said, it definitely depends on the type of business, who's backing it, who's behind it. Is it pre-revenue? Is this post-revenue and it's just a terrible business? Like, you need to uncover that information before you can decide 100% if it's a client or not for you.